Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow night.
Yeah, tonight, Rosh Chodesh Adar. Yeah. So Chodesh Tov to everybody. Mitzvah Hashem. Okay, so what we're going to do today, well, I'm going to mute everybody 1 minute. And then I'll let you speak in a few minutes. Okay. I want to finish off today, Mitzvah Hashem, the story of the sins of Eli HaCohen, because they have a huge ramification and a huge impact into the way we look at Tanakh. What I want to show you today is something quite amazing. We're going to start off with your source sheets, which I'm going to put in front of you now. I've done the English translation, even though I don't like doing English translations because some of the words are a bit complicated here. So let's start off reading it. You can follow, everyone can follow the English translations afterwards whilst we're reading it, if you've got the source sheets in front of you. So what happens is we have the thesis of the book, which is Shmuel, which is written in sentence Chafvav, Pasuk Chafvav, Vana Shmuel holech v'gadel, v'tov gam im Hashem v'gam im anashim. Sorry about that. Shmuel is growing and he's bettering himself with people. Take note of this sentence. Shmuel is every day growing up. His ability to communicate with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and communicate with people is getting better. Bein Adam lamakom, Bein Adam lechavero. The two sides of the Luchot HaBrit, which we'll speak about on Shabbos. We spoke about on Shabbos, Matan Torah. Now, the antithesis of this is exactly what happened with the sins of the sons of Eli HaCohen, where we have, they don't know how to treat people in a correct way. And therefore, what happens? Vayavo ish Elohim el Eli, vayomer elav, ko amar Hashem. This is what Hashem said. Haniglo nigleti el bet avicha biyotam b'mitzrayim lebet paro. Didn't I reveal myself to your fathers in Egypt in the Paro's place? Ubachor oto, and I chose him. Mikol shiftei Yisrael lechahen la'alot al mizbechi. And I chose him to become a kohen, to go up on my altar. Laktir ktoret, to offer up incense. Laset efodet lefanai, put on the bigdei kuna. Ve'na lebet avicha et kol ishei Yisrael, and I've given to all of you the fire offerings of Klal Yisrael. Lama tivatu bezivchi, why have you kicked my offerings over minchati and my meal offerings? Asher tziviti b'ma'on, where I've commanded you to offer up in the Beis HaMikdash. Ma'on is another name for the Beit HaMikdash. Vatchabedet banayich, and you honored your sons greater than me. Lehavriachem, to give them mereshit kol minchat Yisrael ami. And because of that, pasuk lamed, lachen, therefore, ne'um Hashem Elokei Yisrael, amo amarti beiti uvet avicha yitalchu lefanai ad olam. They will continue, be priests, but va'ata ne'um Hashem chalila li. I still can't do it. That means your children, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren will always be priests. But something has happened here. Ki mechabdai, those who honor me, achabed, I will honor. And those who shame me up, ubozai, and those who shame me, yekalu, will be cut off. And therefore, hine yamim ba'im, the days will come, v'gadati et zroacha, I'll cut off your seed, ve'etzroa beit avicha miot zaken beveitcha. I will never let them become old. V'ibatati tsar ma'on b'chol asher yetivit Yisrael, ולא יהיה זקן בביתך כל הימים, will never get to ripe old ages. ואיש לא אחרית למאמך מאם מזבחי לכלות עיניך ולהדיב את נפשך, וכל מרבית ביתך ימותו אנשים. And therefore they won't be, I won't be allowed, I won't let them, the translation is, that's why I brought the translation in sentence 33, and you will, yet every man of yours shall I not cut off from my altar, disappoint you and to sadden your heart, and all those raised in your house will die young. And therefore, v'zelecha ot, and this is the sign, I'm going to show you that I'm going to do this. Asher yavo el shnei banecha el chofni b'minchas b'yom echad yamutu shnehem, on the same day they will both die. V'akimoti li kohen ne'eman, kasher bilvavi, and I'll establish another kohen. Ubaniti lo bait ne'eman, v'yitalech lifnei meshichai kol hayamim. V'aya no kol notar beveitcha, and anybody who will come to your house, yavo lishtachavot lo lagarot kesef v'chika lechem, v'omer safcheni na el achat hakohanot lechol lechem. The translation of the last sentence is the following, and it will be that everyone who is left in your house will come to prostrate himself before him. That means the other coin for a silver piece and a morsel of bread, and will say, take me into one of the priestly divisions in order to eat a morsel of bread. So we have this terrible, terrible prophecy which is coming to Eli, where he says that none of your children will grow old, and he's going to take away from you the family of being high priests, Kohanim Gdolim, and you will remain Kohanim, but none of your children will die on the same day, etc., etc., etc. That is the prophecy. Eli vis-a-vis Shmuel. His children vis-a-vis Shmuel. Now, what is so special in this prophecy? First of all, who said it? It says Ish Elohim, the man of God said it. Who was he? What was the objective? Why was it said? And the words which appear in the prophecy are quite spectacular. And that's what I'm going to discuss today. Now, let's take a look at the beginning of it. Okay? And it says the following. It says, the beginning, who's Ish Elohim? So Rashi, on the original pages, okay, the original pages, in line number 25 on this big page, Vayavo Ish Elohim ze Elkanah. Elkanah, the father of Shmuel, was the prophet. Chazal say the following: V'zot habracha asher birech Moshe Ish Elohim el bnei Yisrael lifnei moto. A prophet is called Ish Elohim. Say Chazal, Ish Elohim ze echad me'asara shenikru Ish Elohim. Moshe nikra Ish Elohim. Tfilah leMoshe Ish Elohim. We say it every Shabbos. Elkanah nikra Ish Elohim. Vayavo Ish Elohim ele Eli. Shmuel nikra Ish Elohim. Hinei na ha'ish ha'elokim ba'ir hazot. The man of God. Now, what's interesting is the terminology Ish ha'elohim, or the man of God. What does it mean? Now, and why is it called not Ish Hashem? Why is it not called Ish Yud Kei Vav Kei? Why is he called Ish HaElohim? And the answer to this is the following. Usually, prophets are communicated, HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicates through to them in order to tell them what's going to happen. Okay, the majority of times is that Hashem doesn't change nature for the prophets. They are in the world of nature. Elohim, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem, is the name which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave for the rules of nature. Breshit bara Elokim. Elokim, the God of nature. the God of science, the God of geography. And that's why the Baal HaTanya says that the gematria, the numerical value of Elokim, Aleph Lamed Hey Yud Mem, is the same gematria as Hateva, nature. Spinoza, the famous philosopher, was excommunicated. Why? Because he believed that there was only the God of nature, which is correct. There is the God of nature, but there is also the God of history, Yud K Vav K, which in other words are a summary, it's an abbreviation of Haya, Hove, V'yeh. Yud K Vav K, the Yud and the Hey, and the Vav and the K. Haya, Hove, V'yeh, the God of history. And that's why when Hashem reveals himself to Moshe, he says to him, Eheyeh asher eheyeh. What I am now, I will be in another minute. I am the God of history. I'm the God who is nitzchi, everlasting. Nature changes its forms. When Hashem gives prophecy to human beings, the majority of times, usually all these prophecies are Hashem working within the framework of nature. And that is why he's called Ish HaElohim, the man of the God of nature. And Hashem is now telling, this is the natural cycle of events. What do we mean, the natural cycle of events? Because in actual fact, it's schar v'onesh, reward and punishment. And that's what's going to happen to your children, the reward and punishment. And that's what we're going to go to now in a deeper way. Let's go back to the page and we'll see further on. Okay, the Ibn Ezra says, the Ralbag says the following. Vayavo ish Elokim eleli, Amru, Chazal say, this was Elkanah. Ulai, Hayazem Mekubal etzlam. They had a tradition like that. V'hinei lo matzanu, but the Ralbag says, lo matzanu no nuvuah b'makom acher. We never find Elkanah having another prophecy. Ve'efshar, and it's possible, shenomar, that we can say, ki hu Pinchas. The prophet was Pinchas. K'mo ha'inyan binvuot anizkarot b'sefer shoftim. Perhaps, al pi pshat, the simple explanation, it was Pinchas, who we know had prophecies in Sefer Shoftim. V'yidmeh, and it would appear, shepasak nuvuot me'eli. Eli stopped becoming a prophet. Let's take note of the fact. Eli is the one who has the ability to give the bracha to Hannah. But his prophecy stops. Hashem doesn't prophesy to Eli telling these things. Mitzat azikna. V'lama utzrach sheyavo lo ish Elohim. And why did a man of God, somebody else, have to come and tell him? The answer is because Eli didn't have the ability to receive prophecy anymore. He was going down. What we spoke about, everything was shifting from Shmuel to Eli. So this is the period between Shmuel and Eli. The next prophecy goes through Shmuel. But this prophecy, Eli can't receive it. We need somebody from the outside. Now, the next pasuk. Let's go back to the next pasuk right at the beginning, which is quite an amazing pasuk. Pasuk Chaf Zayin. Vayavo ish Elohim el Eli vayomer elav. Ko amar Hashem, haniglo nigleti el bet avicha biyotam b'mitzrayim lebet paro. I revealed myself to your father's house in Egypt, to the house of Paro. And I chose him, ubachar oto mikol shiftei Yisrael li lekohen. And I chose him as a kohen. Now, Rabotai, where do we know that Hashem appears to your father's house? We only know that Hashem appears to Moshe. Here we're talking about to the great-great-grandfather of Eli HaCohen, who was Aharon. Now, here we have something quite amazing. What's quite amazing is the following. In Sefer Shemot, in Parshat Shemot, it's written the following. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu the following statement. Hashem says to him, Vayomer lo halo Aaron achicha halevi yadati ki yidaber hu. Carries on. And then he says the following. He's going to meet Levi, he's going to meet Aaron. And later on, it's written the following. Later on, right? It's written. Sorry, let me just find the sentence. All right. Right. The Aaron was chosen to be the Kohen. Now, what happens here? Why was Aaron chosen? What happened here? And the answer is the following. What goes on here is one of the biggest chidushim, which, in my opinion, is the prophets, the book of the prophets become commentators to events which take place in the Torah. We often think that Chazal are the first commentators. They are not. The stories in the Nevi'im tell us of incidents which take place in the period of the Torah, and they give us insights of what happened. To give ourselves an example, anybody who will read Perek Kuf Zayin, chapter 107 in Tehillim, or chapter 80, chapter 76 or 76 in Tehillim, will learn that David HaMelech gives certain commentaries to events which take place in the Torah. Here we also have one, because it's written, God appears to Aaron. Let's learn what Rashi says. Rashi says, Haniglo nigleti el bet avicha. Mikan shenitnabe Aaron b'Mitzrayim. Aaron received a prophecy in Egypt. Umai hanevuah. And what is this prophecy? Now, hu shene'emar va'omar lehem ish shkutze einav hishlichu ubegilulei Mitzrayim al tatamhu. Let's look at the prophecy in Yechezkel. Va'amarta alehem, and you will say to them, you will tell you, Hashem is telling Yechezkel in Bavel the following. Amar Hashem Elokim Biyom Bochri B'Yisrael. The day I chose Israel, Ve'esai yadi lezera bet Yisrael, Ve'ivada lehem be'eretz Mitzrayim, and I made myself known in Egypt. Ve'esai yadi lehem leimor ani Hashem Elokechem. Bayom hahu, on that day, Nasati yadi, I made an oath, L'otziam Mitzrayim, El Eretz, to a land asher tarti lehem, which I searched for them. Zavat chalav udvash. Tzvihi, it's a tzvi, it's something special. L'chol haratzot. Va'omar alehem, and he says to them, and I will say to them, Ish, each one of you, shikutse einav hashlichu, throw away all the rubbish which is in your eyes. Ubegilulei Mitzrayim, and in the abominations of Mitzrayim, al titamo. Vayamiru bi, and they didn't listen to me. That means the Jews in Egypt didn't listen to me. Velo avu lishmoa ish elo lishmoa elai ish et shikutze enehem. They weren't willing to do that. Lo ishlichu ve'et gilulei Mitzrayim lo azavu. Va'omar lishpoch chamati alehem lechalot api bahem betoch eretz Mitzrayim. And I decided to add anger, pour out my anger on them and in Egypt. So therefore we have two things. Let's look in the Torah and let's look in Sefer Yechezkel. The Sefer Torah, from what we read in Chumash, we would see that Hashem punishes Paro because he does not allow the Jews to leave. Sefer Yechezkel, we see another narrative. What is the other narrative? The other narrative is that Hashem had already told the Jewish people in Mitzrayim to Aaron HaKohen to stop worshipping idols. That means Am Yisrael weren't tzaddikim. And Hashem says, listen, if you carry on worship idols, then I will make Paro make you work harder. Two narratives. The narrative of the Torah, the narrative of the Nevi'im. Comes along Rashi in Sefer Yechezkel and says to us the following. Rashi in Sefer Yechezkel says, Va'omar alehem, Aharon niba lahem nevuazu. Line number 60. Aaron niba lahem nevuazu. Aaron prophesied this. Shenigla Kadosh Baruch Hu el Moshe basne. Before HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu at the sneh. V'zeu shene'emar le'eli anigla ligleiti al beit avicha beyotam b'Mitzrayim. Vayamru bi heim harashaim. Those are the wicked people of the Jewish people. Shemetu b'shloshet yimei afela, who died in the 3 days of the choshech. K'mo shene'emar v'chamushim alu, echad mi-chamishim. Where do we know that? Says Moshe Rabbeinu to Hashem, Vayomer, and he says, Bi Adoni, shlachna biyad tishlach. Hashem says, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, send whoever you want to send. And what does Rashi say there in Sefer Shemot? Biyad mi shata ragil lishloach. To whom? The one who usually you send things to. Moshe Rabbeinu knows that Aaron is the first prophet. Aaron, Rabotai, is the first Navi. He is the one who receives the Nevu'ah in Mitzrayim. Hashem telling Aaron, go and tell the Jewish people to stop worshipping idols. We have a new commentary on an incident which takes place in the Torah. When we read Chumash, when we read Torah, we only see God punishing Paro and Mitzrayim. But we don't see the other side of it. God punishing the Jewish people. Aaron, Hashem constantly tells Aaron to tell the Jewish people, stop worshipping him idols. And they don't. And therefore, Hashem punishes him. Why isn't this said in the Torah? Because until Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem doesn't want to reveal to us that there was anything else. And therefore, the medium goes through Torah to Moshe. The Nevi'im receive another perspective from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Twice this is mentioned in the Nevi'im. The first time through the Isha Elokim to Eli, and the second time in Yechezkel. This is what we call a commentary of the prophecy, of the commentary of the prophets on the Torah, the commentary of the prophets on the Torah. Eli receives this prophecy, Elkanah receives this prophecy, and Yechezkel receives this prophecy. And Rashi joins everything up together. And therefore, Aaron, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Moshe Rabbeinu knows that his brother is a prophet, and his brother receives the prophecy even before Moshe Rabbeinu does it. That is Chidush number one, a new concept which we've learnt from this short story. Any questions, please? I'm letting anybody speak now, because this is something completely new. Yeah. Questions?
Yes.
This prophecy that was given to Aaron occurred chronologically before the incident of the burning bush.
Of the burning bush, yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
You read before that from the Sifri that Ish Elokim was Moshe,
No, and Elkanah and Shmuel.
but not Aaron.
No. Nachon, we don't find Aaron to be called Ish Elokim. Nachon, correct. But not every prophet is called Ish Elokim. Certain ones are called Ish Elokim. Okay.
Okay.
Who recorded the truth of this story? In other words,
Hashem says it to Yechezkel. What can we do?
Hashem says it to Yechezkel. In other words,
or Hashem says it to Elkanah. He repeats this story twice. Once to Elkanah and once to Yechezkel.
So are you saying the Nevi'im has the same status as the Chamisha Chamisha Torah?
No. Incidents which take place in the Torah are explained in the books of the Nevi'im. Incidents which take place. Hashem gives us a new narrative or new ideas which will explain incidents in the Torah. I'll just give you an example. Okay? The best example is the story of the spies. The story of the spies. The story of the Meraglim. In Sefer Tehillim, it's written, Vayimasu be'eretz chemda. The Ramban uses that in his commentary. Hashem, Am Yisrael, didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. That explanation is not mentioned in the Torah at all. It's mentioned in Sefer Tehillim, which means to say that things or stories or prophecies which are given give us different insights into events which have taken place in the period of the Torah. Okay, and Hashem reveals it to prophets in a later generation. Okay, that is the new idea, which when we learn Nevi'im, we have to look into that dimension. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, Rabbi, why is it so obtuse? Why is this revelation done in a period, I'll pick a number, 2,000 years after the event? Why not at that time in the Chumash?
I'll explain to you. All right, very good question. I'll explain to you why. Okay. Let's go into something which is completely different, and I'll give you an explanation, okay, which is it's apt to what you're saying, which you asked me. If we look at the story of the battle against Amalek, okay, one narrative is mentioned in Parshat in Sefer Shmot, and the other narrative is mentioned in Sefer Dvarim. The narrative of the battle is mentioned in Sefer Shmot. The narrative of Sefer Dvarim, another narrative is mentioned in Sefer Dvarim 40 years later. Now, why is that? Because each generation needs its different narrative. The objective of Sefer Shmot is to speak about the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What we called Shmot, Gilui HaShemot, the revelation of the names of God. And the revelations of the name of God in Sefer Shmot speaks about history, miracles, divine providence, Yetziat Mitzrayim, Matan Torah, Milchemet Amalek, and Mishkan. Sefer Dvarim speaks about the Jews going into the land of Israel. Going into the land of Israel, there is a diminishment of the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not the same miracles which take place in the beginning of the desert at the end of the desert. Only in Sefer Dvarim 40 years later does Moshe Rabbeinu reveal to the people who weren't even there that the Amalek attacked the weak people of the Jewish people. Now, each generation needs a different meser, a different lesson or another lesson, right? When we're speaking about different periods in history, different appreciations, different ways of looking at things. And Hashem decides when to reveal different dimensions according to the nature of the people who live at that period. Therefore, in the time of the Torah, we're speaking about the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the period of the prophecy, we're speaking about the failings of human beings. The failings of human beings, Hashem reveals to them, listen, you are from the family of priests. Look what's your great-great-grandfather received prophecies. And look where you have gone down to. So therefore, Hashem often reveals things, and it's just like history. Okay, you look in the archives of history, you will see things which people decide to hide for all different reasons. 70 years later, you get to know. Why is it revealed 70 years later? Because often you're in a state of shock and you haven't got the ability to realize what's going on the whole time. Only in historical perspective see these things. And that's why it is revealed later on in history, because then you have the appreciation to understand different sides of things, different narratives. Each generation needs sometimes different narratives. And that's why I think, to answer your question, Harold, that's what the way Hashem decides to reveal different things at different periods of time, in order to appreciate and in order to understand where you are, where they were, because often people don't have that ability. If there are any other questions, I'm willing to answer, because I think this is a very, very important statement. Okay, can I carry on?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's carry on the next stage. The next stage of the story is the following. Okay. Hashem, the Malach, says to Aaron HaKohen, says to Eli HaKohen, listen, this is what I've given the Kohanim to do. I want to read with you the Ralbag, which is very important. Lezeh amar Hashem yitbarach, hinei hishpati la'Aaron, I influenced Aaron, shefa nevuah, v'lo yispik zeh. This wasn't the only thing I gave to him. Aval bacharti oto lekahen, I chose him to become a kohen. Mikol mishpachot Yisrael, lakriv al hamizbeach, to offer up sacrifices on the altar. Ulaktir al hamizbeach hapnimi, and to offer up incense on the altar which is inside. V'laset lifnei bigdei kuhuna gdola, lashot aleim ruach nevuah, be'emtzaut urim v'tumim. And I gave Aaron HaKohen and all the future generations of the Kohanim powers of prophecy through the Urim v'Tumim. Let's try to understand. What is the Kohen HaGadol? The Kohen HaGadol is somebody who manages to interpret the secrets of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the medium of the Urim v'Tumim. V'lama v'ani asita lehem kol hatova azot. You are, says the Malach Elokim, you, the Kohanim HaGadolim, are the most important medium of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Jewish people. V'lama atem bo'atim b'zivchi. Why are you kicking all my sacrifices? U'minchati asher tziviti b'ma'on shetiyeh b'ma'on hayadua. V'achrei zeh tizku b'matnot misholcha. And you are then receiving all the gifts from those who bring you the sacrifices. V'ata, and you, Eli HaKohen, honor your children more than me. You were never willing to rebuke them. You were never willing to tell them off. You were never willing to speak to your children how to respect, first of all, women. Remember the last shiur, they always used to keep the women to the last. Even though it's written, hishkavtem, you actually slept with them, you stopped. Your misbehavior was so great that you lowered, and you didn't react properly to women who had given birth and women who can't be with their husbands. And then you took off extra food. Where was your respect for women? Where was your respect for people? Where was your respect for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Please take note that in the beginning, the first sentence is just the opposite. The first sentence is, and in anashim, and you are just the opposite. And because of this misbehavior, and you are Eli HaKohen, who you are responsible as the high priest for the behavior of all the other priests, you were not willing to tell them off. And therefore, what's going to happen? Lachen nu'um Hashem Elokim. Because of this, Hashem says to them the following. Nu'um Hashem Elokim, it's written now in Pasuk Lamed, Amor Amarti. Now, he doubles the word here. Amor Amarti. I specifically say, I'm going over it. Beitcha uvet avicha yitalchu lefanei ad olam. V'ata nu'um Hashem chalila li, ki mechabdai achabed ubazai yikolu. Let's look in the commentary on this, because this is, Abrabanel has a fascinating insight. Abrabanel says the following. Achrei shezachar pishehem, after that he mentions their iniquities, zachar onsham, he mentions their punishment. Va'amar, she'im heyot kavanato rotzono eloki, shebet Eli ubet aviv, רוצה לומר, משפחתו יתהלכו לפניו עד עולם, הנה אתה בסיבת החטא הזה, אמר השם, חלילה לי. There's no way, guys. רוצה לומר, מעשות זו שידחו בניך לפניי כל הימים. כי מידת דיני, the מידת הדין, is שמכבדי אכבד, ובוזי יקלו. I'm willing to give respect to those who respect me, but those who shame me up, ubozai, I'm going to push them away. I'm going to make them into fire. Milashon kali. Amar, yekelu להגיד שהקלון ימשך עליהם מצידם, כי הכבוד והטוב יימשך ממנו יתברך, והביזיון והכללי יבוא מפעולותם. Sorry, my video has gone for a minute. Now, what does that mean? It's a very interesting statement, that. And let's look in what's written in Pirkei Avot. In Pirkei Avot, it's written the following. Ben Zoma Omer, Ezo Chacham halomed mikol adam. Learns from everybody. Shnema mikol melamdai iskalti. Ezo Gibor hagovesh et yitzro. שנאמר, טוב ערך אפיים מגיבור ומושל ברוחו מלוכד עיר. איזו עשיר השמח בחלקו, שנאמר, יגיע כפיך כי תאכל אשריך וטוב לך. איזו מכובד, who is respectable, somebody who respects other people. כי מכבדי אכבד, ובוזי יקלו. This is the source of somebody who respects other people. Now let's look at this word ubozai yekalu. This is a very strange statement. It should have been those who shame me up, I will curse them. But he doesn't say that. It says ubozai yekalu. They will be automatically cursed. Says the Ravenu Ovadia Bar Tanura. Labadnu an v'tanuto shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lo amar ubozai akalel. Doesn't say those who shame me up, I will curse. Ela yekalu be'atzmam. The curse will be automatic. Now, what does that mean? Let's explain. Hashem gives the power of life to everybody. What do we say every single day? Every day. Val nisecha shebechol yom imanu. Elokai neshama shenatata bi torahi. We believe that every neshama, every breath which we take, is through the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All what HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to do is to take away the power of life. That means he doesn't need to do anything. All he needs to do is to take out the plug, and automatically the electricity will stop. And that's what he means. I give brachot to somebody who respects other people, but somebody who doesn't, who shames me up, they automatically will be cursed. The curse is there, so to speak, the whole time. The curse exists the whole time. Stops the curse from taking place. I do. I give you the bracha. The curse doesn't take place. The minute Hashem doesn't give a bracha, the curse automatically takes place. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. I don't need to curse anybody. Anybody who curses me, who shames me up, automatically will be cursed. That's what the Mishnah says. And that's why he doesn't need to say, ubozai akalel. No. Yekalu in the nifal. Automatically. It's something which exists. Now, let's carry on. Comes along the Abrabanel and says the following. How is it that Eli became the high priest? Ubidrash, says the Abrabanel. Ubidrash Amru, mitchila, at the beginning, natati kuhuna ve'elazar. I gave the high priesthood to Elazar, the son of Aaron. There was Aaron, we know, had 4 children, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. Nadav and Avihu die. Elazar is left, and Itamar. Itamar doesn't become the high priest. Now Eli is from the family of Itamar. He's not from the family of Elazar. What happens? Says the Abrabanel. Ubidrash Amru. Mitchila natati kuna le'Elazar beno shel Aaron. Ulefi shebimei Pilegesh bagiva, in the time of Pilegesh bagiva, shepakru Yisrael borov mitzvot vegaram lahem. What caused it? Ze Pinchas v'shar haKohanim shelo hayu nosim me'ir el ir kara'ui lochicham. The Abrabanel says that Pinchas and all the other priests only stayed in Shiloh. They never went around speaking to the people. They waited for the people to come to Shiloh, and they never did anything to improve the environment of the Jewish people. Therefore, natalti kuna gdola mehem. I took away the high priesthood from them. V'natatia el bnei Itamar. And I gave it to the children of Itamar, And you were the first one, Eli, Shnayim v'shivim shana, 72 years. Achshav, and now, shekilkelu b'nei Eli chalila li, ki mechabda echabed, b'nei Pinchas, shekibed oti b'shitim achabed otam. ובזה יקלו אלו בני אלי שנאמר ויגרש שלמה את אביתר מיות כהן לשם למלא דבר השם אשר דיבר על בית אלי ואז נעשה צדוק כהן גדול שהיה מבני פנחס. Hashem gives a chance to the children of Itamar to become the Kohanim Gdolim. That lasts for 72 years. But Hashem already tells them it will be a very short time. Why? Because you do not, there's two different things. Pinchas and his family didn't look after the children of Israel. They respected me. They respected me. They didn't respect you properly. And that is why I took it away. You, the children of Eli from the house of Itamar, you don't respect the children of Israel. Not only don't you look after them, you mezalzel. You don't respect them. And people who don't respect Am Yisrael cannot become Kohanim Gdolim. That can't remain. That's exactly what happens. And that's what Hashem is telling Eli. Your children have ruined everything because you did not teach them the way to respect Am Yisrael. Now comes the Abrabanel with another brilliant thing. Ukafi chachmei hanotzrim matzati. I found in the explanations of the Christians. Matzati she'eli biyoto shofet Yisrael lakach la'atzmo hakuna gdola. The Christians claim that and he took away the Kohen Hagadol from Pinchas. Imeyota kfi adin libnei Pinchas ve'Elazar. ואם היה כן, היה שאלוקים מזכירו בדבר ותוכחתו, אבל דבריו באמת מורים חילופו. The Christian tradition, Rabotai, says that Abrabanel was that Eli was a judge. He, as a member of the priesthood family, because he was a son of Itamar, he took away the priesthood from Pinchas and all his family. That was the Christian tradition. Okay? That was the Christian tradition. And says the Abrabanel, that cannot be. Because if Eli HaKohen took the priesthood from Pinchas by force, the Ish Elokim would have rebuked him for that. And since we do not find that in the rebuke of the Ish Elokim to Eli such a thing, therefore that's not true. But look what Abrabanel does here. Abrabanel, the great Don Yitzchak Abrabanel, one of the greatest commentators on the Tanakh, he used to look at the Christian commentaries of his period. Ukafi chachmei hanotzrim. There was a certain tradition of the Christians on their traditions of Tanakh. And he says that it's wrong. But that is an important dimension. Abrabanel is willing to take on Christian explanations, challenge them, learn them, and challenge them. And Abrabanel does this many times. Okay, so that's what's happened. Now, to finalize the whole thing, so therefore, what have we learned here, Rabotai? We've learned here something quite amazing. Okay, and now I'll give you a few minutes to ask some questions. What have we learned here? We learned here the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells, the Ish Elokim tells Eli that your children didn't behave themselves. I gave you the gift of prophecy and you didn't look after it. You didn't respect Am Yisrael. And therefore, because of that, I gave it to you because Pinchas's family didn't look after the Jewish people. He let them go down. But on the other hand, Pinchas always respected HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You, at the end of the game, never respected the Jewish people. And Hashem lets the family of Eli to be the high priests until the period of Shlomo HaMelech. Until the period of Shlomo HaMelech, the family of Eli HaKohen remain high priests until Shlomo takes it away from them. And then he returns it to the family of Elazar. This tension which exists between the two families of Aaron. Which family will be the Kohen Hagadol? The one from Elazar and Pinchas, or the family of Itamar? And the Christian explanation. Now, if there are any questions, please ask now, because now we're going to the final stage of the story, how the curse takes place. Any questions, please? Okay, let's carry on.
Yeah, okay, let me ask a question.
Yes, Harold.
So it appears that the kahuna was taken away from Pinchas because they remained in their confines, and they didn't go out to the people. In other words, they didn't respect the people to go out to teach them, to bring them closer, etc. And it seems that the complaint, it's the same complaint leveled against the sons of Eli HaCohen.
It gets worse, Harold. It's worse. Not only don't go there and teach, they don't even respect those who come.
Okay, so there is a chiluk between the family of Pinchas and whatever they did wrong so that the kahuna was taken away, and the real sins of the family of Eli that was
correct. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, it becomes a lot worse. That's why Hashem punishes the children of Eli to such an extent. Okay, right.
A question
Yes.
that I'm trying to understand. If Eli and his sons were punished for not following what Hashem wanted them to do, why did they retain the kahuna until Shlomo Melech?
Very good question. Okay, the answer to that is, okay, which we'll see, is that even though the children of Eli, Chofni and Pinchas, did behave like that, and that we'll see now in Mitzvah Hashem in the development of the punishment which takes place, and that's the last section of this shiur, which we're going to learn now. Okay, very good question. Right now, what happened? Says the Abrabanel the following. The Abrabanel says, Ubier, Ech yekalu, how will they be shamed up? How will they be cursed? Bo'omro, shlosha klalot sheyavu al Beit Eli acharav. Right? Now, ha'achat, hine yamim ba'im. There will be days, v'gadati miot zaken bebeitcha, rotze lomar, shelo tachul aklala al zera Eli, ki im ad sheyeh kohen gadol. ולכן אמר הנה ימים באים, והכללה היא שיגדע זרועות ביתו מיות זקן בביתו. ירמוז שהזרוע אשר היה בביתו ביות אליהו הכהן הגדול. That means the first thing is that the first curse which will take place will be that Hashem waits, which is the next thing. I want to jump over the last part because it's going to take me a long time otherwise to understand. And we're going to start, which is in front of you. Vinei ayu haklalot ha'ele. Midah keneged midah. There's a midah keneged midah. Lefi shebnei Eli haya lehem kavod gadol. They had great honor. בהיות אביהם הכהן הגדול ולא חששו לו. לכן קיללם שלא יהיה עוד מהם זקן וחכם ומנהיג. There won't get to a ripe old age. עוד היה להם ריבוי טובה. They had another great thing. כי לא היו בבית השם כהנים אחרים זולתם. And therefore, ולכן קיללם שיביטו צר ומעון. כמו שפירשתי. עוד היו אנשים בחורים. And therefore, they died when they're young. ועליו נאמר, and this will answer your question, ועליו אמר, וזה לך האות, אשר יבוא אל שני בניך, שימותו שניהם ביום אחד. Right. Now, they'll die on the same day. ועליה אמרתי לי כהן נאמן, וזה אמר צדוק הכהן. I will establish a great, what's it called? A proper כהן. על צדוק הכהן, שיעשה ברצון הקהל יתברך, ושלא תסור הכהונה מזרעו אחריו, כמו ששר מבית עלי. אביני לו בית נאמן. That means until, and that will answer your question, until there was somebody suitable to take over from the house of Eli, it will remain in their family. And that's what exactly happens. ועליה אמר והקימותי ושלא תסור הכהונה מזרעו אחריו כפי ששרה. אבל אני רוצה לומר שתהיה קיימת לזרעו הכהונה. זכר מתי זה יהיה? באומרו ויתהלך עליי לפני משיחי כל הימים כולו. Hashem promises, and this will answer your question. Why does it take place? Because Hashem says this will take place in, and I'm going to the beginning of the sentence, the following. In Pasuk Lamed Hey, והקימותי לי כהן נאמן, כאשר בלבבי, ובנפשי יעשה, ובניתי לו בית נאמן, ויתהלך לפני משיחי כל הימים. When will this take place? This will take place at the time when Am Yisrael will be complete. They will have a Beis HaMikdash. They will have a melech, a proper melech, not somebody who was David for 7 years. Everybody was against him. In Yerushalayim, he had, goodness knows what happened. The true king and the one who never had to fight was Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech was in actual fact the pinnacle of kings, or could have been the pinnacle of the kings. And only in the period of the pinnacle of the kings, Hashem says, then I will bring back the true Kohen Gadol. So Hashem realizes, so to speak, that the time when Am Yisrael are going through still this fraction, this division, there cannot be a pure high priest. We can't go back to Aaron HaKohen. We'll only be able to go back to Aaron HaKohen at the time when Am Yisrael themselves have the ability to be shleimim, to be perfect. And that's when it will take place. And that's what Hashem reveals, and that's the answer to your question. The answer to your question is because everything has to fit in its place. At the time when the Kohanim HaGdolim don't behave, therefore, it's a symbol of the problems of Am Yisrael. Therefore, we have to have Shmuel, whose job is it to begin to unite the Jewish people. And let's try to understand it. Shmuel's objective is the beginning of the reunification of Am Yisrael. He then chooses a king, Shaul, doesn't work out. He then goes to David. David also has his problems. Only afterwards, then we get to Shlomo. Okay, just take note of something which is quite important. Okay, we say every day in Birchat HaMazon the following: Rachem Hashem Elokeinu Yisrael Amecha v'Ayu Shlemecha v'Yaltzi v'Malchut Beit David. It's written. 1 minute. Let me just try to hold on a minute. Sorry. Okay, Shlomo is the pinnacle of the Jewish people. In his days, the Beis HaMikdash is built. There are no walls. There's nothing. And that's why Shlomo is in actual fact the same words, same letters as LeMoshe. Shin, Lamed, Mem, Hey. Lamed, Mem, Shin, Hey. Shlomo and Moshe try to unite each other. They are both the pinnacle of the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu receiving Torah. Shlomo HaMelech bringing fire from heaven at the time of the Chanukat Beit HaMikdash. And that's why Shmuel prepares the land and the people to, in actual fact, get to this position again, to the period of Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why we have to wait 72 years until the Kohen Gadol goes back to the original house. At the time where there's this diffraction, this breaking apart of the Jewish people, you have to begin to reunite it. The sons of Eli are just a symptom of what's going on. They are a symptom of the period of the Shoftim, of the breaking down of the Jewish people, from Yoshua to Shmuel. There's this terrible, terrible period where the Jewish people can't find themselves. And the Kehuna Gdolah is just a resemblance of all these things. It's a symptom. And the Kehuna Gdolah can only go back to its original place when the Jewish people are ready for it. And that's why the Navi comes. What does he say? He says in this beautiful pasuk, he says, V'akimoti lecha kohen ne'eman ka'asher bilvavi uvenafshi ya'aseh ubaniti lo, and I will build for him Beit ne'eman, and I will build for him a Beis HaMikdash. V'yitalech lifnei Mashiachai kol hayamim, and he will be able to walk in front of the Mashiachim. And the true Mashiach, in actual fact, was Shlomo HaMelech, only he failed. But that, Rabotai, is the prophecy, the gift which was given to Aaron, and the gift which is given to Eli. And Eli fails, because the same way as the Jewish people don't respect one another in Pelegesh Bagivah, they don't respect each other. The Kohanim Gdolim don't respect anybody. In a period where people don't respect leaders and leaders don't respect people, then you've got a big problem. And therefore Shmuel is the one who will have to begin to unite. And that's why the initial stage of this sentence is V'ana Shmuel olech v'gadel v'tovim Hashem v'gam im anashim. There's no way that a Kohen and a leader can be good if he isn't good to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he isn't good with people. And that is, in actual fact, the description of what's going on in the Jewish people. In Mitzvah Hashem, we will now, in the next shiur, we will begin to speak about Shmuel. This was the birth of Shmuel, the growing up of Shmuel, what happens when Shmuel is a child and growing up and what he sees. And the next shiur will speak about Shmuel and his first vision from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where he sees there's a necessity to unite the Jewish people again. That is the children of Eli. Any questions? Please ask now.
Do we have anywhere in the Torah that the Neviah was given to, the Navi, Aaron was before Moshe?
No, it's not mentioned. Yes, it is. What we read before, that Moshe Rabbeinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay?
Yeah.
It says here, let me find it for you. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem in line number 70, Vayomer bi Adoni shlach na biyad tishlach.
Yeah.
Send to whoever you usually send. Rashi says, biyad mi she'ata ragil lishloach v'hu Aaron. That's the hint.
Yeah.
And also Aaron was also called, if you remember quite correctly, V'Aaron HaKohen yeh neviecha. Okay? So that means we usually interpret it that Aaron, Hashem says to Aaron, V'Aaron HaKohen yeh neviecha will be your spokesman. No, it's not only a spokesman. It really was that he was a true prophet. You understand? Because here it's hinted that he will be your prophet together with you. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem speaks to Moshe, and he says to them, he says the following, 1 minute. Sorry. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe vel Aaron, vayitzavem el bnei Yisrael. So here we have it also, right? That Hashem speaks to Aaron. Okay, only Moshe is the one who's the proper leader for all different reasons. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu's own personal reasons why it chooses Moshe, not Aaron. Aaron perhaps might have been too soft, and Moshe was a stronger character.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I might have missed it, but did Aaron receive any nuva regarding Nadav and Avihu?
No. Yeah, well, he did. After Nadav and Avihu, Hashem sends to him. It's written there in Parshat Shmini that there's a special piece of the mitzvahs which were just given to Aaron, but he never received any prior prophecy about that. No, not as far as I know. Okay.
There's a perpetual question about free will. Hashem knows everything that's going to happen. At the same time, he's allowing, for example, Eli's kids to wreak havoc. Now, this is because the Jewish people are supposed to look after these things themselves, and Hashem is waiting. But he knows the outcome. So the area of independence runs all through of this in a controlled way.
Listen, what Hashem, look, the minute Eli heard such a prophecy, okay, we've got a cloud. Nevuah, which is given for good things, Hashem never changes. Nevuah, which is given for bad things, Hashem can change.
Yes.
Okay?
It's a good cloud.
Now, the minute Eli receives this prophecy, what should he do? What should happen? What really should happen is
to spank them.
Exactly. Okay? But what does it say? Eli has got no control. He's zaken. He doesn't have that ability anymore. So therefore, in actual fact, it could take place. What really could have taken place was the following, that the true children of Eli begin to do tshuva, and they do tshuva to such an extent that Hashem is willing to change everything over again. Okay? Obviously, for some reason, that doesn't happen. But the chances are there. Okay, there's no such thing, we believe, in tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah can always help. But they don't.
But that contradicts God's all-knowing.
No, it doesn't. I'll explain to you, okay? Okay, you want me to go into this? The all-knowing of God, what does the Rambam say? The Rambam says that God's all-knowing does not interfere with man's behavior.
Right.
Right. If it doesn't interfere with man's behavior, therefore, even though Hashem tells me something, if I want to carry on and do what I want, then I'll do it. It doesn't stop my free choice. The knowledge does not interfere with me.
It means God knows all, and he must suffer terribly from the way we behave.
Can I give you an example, Phil? Okay. There was one time I was in the United States, and the bathrooms were very near the security section of the shopping center. Okay, so I went past there, and you see 10 people, okay, looking at the cameras and what's going on. Okay, the people looking in the cameras see people, okay, pickpocketing. Do they stop them? No. They know what's going on. I'll give you a better example, which was the first time I ever thought of it. The first time I ever had a GPS, not Waze, a GPS, okay? The GPS goes recalculating. What do you mean recalculating? He knows what I'm doing, but he doesn't stop me. The knowledge of God is your ways. You don't have to listen to Waze. You can become an Oiber Chochem, and you think you're driving in Baka, and they say at the end of the road, there's a big traffic jam. No, I'll be an Oiber Chochem. I'll go the other. Waze tells you, no, turn left. Nah, there can't be a traffic jam there. I'll go straight. It's exactly Waze, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking at you, just like Waze is looking at you.
But Hashem knows. Waze makes mistakes.
Waze does. Okay.
Look, it's a hard question. It's an unfair question because.
No, it's not. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. Okay. You take people. Okay. You go to. Okay. There was once a program of the security in Ben Gurion. All these people trying to shmuchel their ways through in their going through the green line and the red line. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you've got all these people looking there and telling, you can go through. I know better. No, everybody knows exactly what's going on. Okay, but I don't stop you. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above the realm of free choice. Okay, and tshuva, we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the kelim of tshuva, and if the children of Eli would have really done tshuva, perhaps Hashem would have gone back on it.
But didn't Hashem know that they wouldn't do tshuva?
His knowledge doesn't stop them from doing tshuva.
No, that's true.
Right, okay. So then he would have had to find a different plan.
But Rabbi, if they would have done tshuva, we wouldn't have had the chumash.
Sorry?
We'd have another chumash. If the sons would have changed their behavior at that point, the chumash that we are reading is not the chumash that would have been available. The whole world would have changed.
I agree with you, and I agree with you 100%, and that's why not the words are holy in the chumash, but the letters.
Were they?
I'll go over that sentence again.
Well,
let's say Adam HaRishon wouldn't have sinned. Right? What would have been our Torah? It would have been the same letters, but different words.
Well, that's a classic. The number of the letters and so on, that's very, very metaphysical.
It's true.
I have to be over 40 years old to understand you, so I'm not old enough yet.
I'll explain to you. You're over 40, don't worry. I'll explain to you. Okay? The letters of the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah in a system of words which applied to that period of history. But the order of the letters is Bet, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Tav. Breshit, Bara, Elokim. If Adam HaRishon wouldn't have sinned, then we would have had a different dictionary. The letters are holy, the words aren't. Therefore, you live in a certain dictionary. You live in certain words. And the fact that we live in certain words create your thoughts. Okay? Change the letters, change the dictionary, you will have a different way of thinking. And history is also a function of that. But we won't go into it now because that I can't teach over Zoom. That Rabbi say we'll have to go when we're in a classroom in Nitzanim, and I'll explain to you the whole concept, because by Zoom this won't work. That I promise you.
I think you're going to have a hard sales job, because that's the Gematria style of, it's a different life.
No, it's true. It's a different life. I agree with you. A completely different life.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll tell you something. There was a famous film called Sliding Doors.
Want to take Ori on the phone?
I can't take stuff with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a film called Sliding Doors. It's a very good film. It told of a person of two stories. Okay, a woman going into the train and a woman missing the train. The end result was the same. She had to meet this guy. The only question is how she met the guy. And that's exactly the story of the Torah. Okay, if Adam HaRishon wouldn't have sinned, the end result would have been the same. Only the ways it goes is different. And that's what I mean, words and letters into words. Okay, the same letters, different order of words.
But you know, that's a long discussion, not for now.
It's a long discussion, not by Zoom.
Because you can take any number and rearrange it. There could be 1 and 5 zeros. You can put 0.0.
No, you don't change the order of the numbers. You don't change the order of the letters.
Oh, that one is a question of where you slice the letters.
Exactly, where you slice the letters.
Yeah.
And how you make up the word. Think to yourself, okay, there's a fascinating article of Rabbi Sachs on it. Okay, Rabbi Sachs used to say that the concept of Hebrew is without vowels and without where you stress the word.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And therefore the meaning changes. If there are no vowels, right, so therefore the context changes. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Torah in a way that only letters are found, not vowels and not where you stress the word either, not without Tamei HaMikra. And therefore your ability to change meaning and subject and context changes the whole time.
That's very symbolic.
It's not, it's emes. It's emes.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Have a good Chodesh Adar, Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Keep well.
Everybody be
well. Oh, yeah.